Ever get that feeling, you know, that shiver down your spine when you think, is my smartphone like too smart? It's like it knows I'm thinking about buying those new shoes before I even, you know, actually think about it.
Yeah, I think we all get that.
So today we're peeling back the screen, cracking open that sleek little black mirror.
Yeah, let's demystify it a little.
We're going deep on the tech inside.
It's not really about, fear-mongering. It's about arming yourself with the knowledge to understand how this stuff actually works.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
Right.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think it makes sense to start with the basics, right? Let's talk about the hardware, the nuts and bolts.
Fix.
So we're talking CPU, RAM, storage.
The brains and the memory of your phone, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And most smartphones, they use something called ARM architecture in their CPU.
Okay. And what's so special about that?
Well, this design prioritizes low power consumption.
Which means?
Your phone can constantly transmit data without that battery icon, turning red within an hour.
Hold on, constantly transmitting data, even when I'm not, like, actively using it?
Yep. Even when you think it's just chilling in your pocket, it's feeding information back.
About my shoe obsession, probably.
Could be. But seriously, there are documented cases of phones, many with this ARM architecture, sending location pings to various apps and servers, even with location services turned off.
Sneaky side hustle. Okay. So it's never truly off. Got it. What about RAM? I always aim for the max gigabytes when I upgrade, but what does that actually mean in this context?
So RAM is like your phone's short-term memory.
Okay.
More RAM means it can run more apps, more processes all at the same time.
Okay, so more data stream.
Exactly. About you. Every app you open, it's another opportunity to collect and analyze your, let's call them, digital moves.
So even if I close an app, like swipe it away, the traces of my activity are still lingering in the RAM.
You could say that it's like wiping away your fingerprints, but they're still visible under the right light, yeah.
Okay, getting slightly creeped out now.
And then we have storage. This is like your phone's hard drive, right, where everything is stored long term. You might think it's your space, but system files, app data, hidden logs, they all take up space.
Wait, I paid for all those gigabytes, and they're not even all mine.
Not necessarily, no. And get this, even the data you do create, photos, videos, notes, it all comes with what's called metadata embedded in it.
Metadata, so that's like what information about the file.
More than that. We're talking timestamps, location data, even specific device information, all hidden in that data.
It's just like a digital fingerprint on everything, even my super secret private photo album.
Exactly. And speaking of fingerprints, let's move from hardware to the software side of things.
Right, because the hardware is just the stage, the software is the play.
Perfect analogy. And whether you're Team Android or Team iOS, your operating system, it's managing all those phone resources.
Okay.
It's like the bouncer deciding what those apps can and can't access. Those app permissions we all just mindlessly click through.
Click, yeah.
They're meant to protect your privacy in theory, but in practice, it's not always so straightforward.
Which is where I guess things like rooting and jailbreaking come in, right? I've heard those terms thrown around, but I'm still a little fuzzy on what they actually do.
Think of it like this. It's picking the lock on that bouncer's door.
Okay.
You're bypassing those operating system restrictions to get more control as the user.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but, you're also removing those safety measures, and you might be opening yourself up to more risks.
More control, more risk. Seems to be a theme here with smartphones, doesn't it? So we've got the brains, the memory, the rule book.
Right.
But what about that thing we spend most of our time glued to, the screen?
Ah, yes. Those gorgeous, glorious OLED displays.
Don't you just love a good screen?
The colors just pop.
Oh, I know. I'm a sucker for a beautiful OLED. But are you saying there's more to it than just pretty pictures?
Well, every tap, every swipe, every minute you spend scrolling, it's all being tracked, all being analyzed to understand your behavior, to keep you engaged.
It's like my phone knows what I want before I do.
It's getting good at predicting, that's for sure.
That's both impressive and a little unnerving. And is that where, like, those targeted ads come from?
You got it. That data they collect from your screen activity, it's incredibly valuable for advertisers who want to, shall we say, personalize their message.
Right.
Just for you.
Okay, so our phones are analyzing every tap, every swipe. But how much can they really get from that? Like, it's not as if they can read my mind or something.
Well, about that.
Oh.
Let's talk about sensors, the hidden world of sensors.
Okay.
Because your phone, it's packed with them.
It is.
And they're picking up on way more than you might realize. I mean, they're painting a picture of your world, your place in it.
Okay, you've got my attention now. Sensors, break it down. What am I dealing with here?
So you've got your accelerometer and your gyroscope. These guys work together to help your phone understand orientation,
Yeah.
Like when you're playing a game, you tilt the screen.
Oh, right. I've definitely cursed those sensors a time or two during a frustrating game of, what is it, Candy Crush?
Exactly. But it's not all fun and games.
Mm.
These sensors, they also track your movements in the real world, like whether you're walking, running, even how often you pick up and put down your phone.
Okay, so it's not just tracking my digital actions, it's mapping my physical ones too. That feels a little, I don't know, Big Brother-ish, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. And then there's the proximity sensor.
What does that one do?
It can tell how close your face is to the screen.
Which is handy for calls, right? Make sure you don't accidentally hang up with your cheek.
Right. But it also tells your phone when you're looking at it when you're not.
Yeah.
Don't forget the ambient light sensor, quietly working in the background, adjusting your screen brightness.
Right, based on your environment. So basically, my phone has a sixth sense,
Kind of, yeah.
and it's just constantly gathering all this data. It's a little creepy when you think about it.
I mean, it's all part of creating that seamless user experience, right?
Yeah.
But you're right, it does all contribute to this very detailed picture of you, your habits, your routines. It can even be used to kind of guess your emotional state.
Okay. Now that is creepy. You're saying my phone could predict my mood swings before I do.
It's not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of things that can be unsettling, let's move on, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The cameras and the microphone.
Because those are the things
Yeah.
that always get people going on about surveillance, right?
Always.
Okay, so full disclosure, I have definitely, on occasion, slapped a piece of tape over my laptop webcam. But those smartphone cameras these days, they're so good. Where do they fit into all this?
Well, those cameras on your phone, they do way more than just snap pretty pictures. They're powerful sensors in their own right.
How so?
Think about it. Every photo, every video you take comes with a little bit of, let's call it, invisible baggage. Metadata.
Metadata. That's like information about when and where the photo was taken.
You're thinking in the right direction. It's all that, timestamps, those precise geolocation coordinates, even information about the device used to capture it.
So even if I'm super careful about what I share online, my phone still knows the when and where of every shot I take.
You got it. And then there's this whole other thing, facial recognition software,
Yeah, that's getting very good very quickly.
which can be used to identify people in your photos, even if they're not tagged.
Okay, that is some Black Mirror stuff right there. All right, so we've talked about the cameras. What about the other sensor that always seems to be listening? The microphone. I mean, it's always on, right? Waiting for its wake words.
Right. But while it's waiting, what else is it picking up?
That's a good question.
Even little snippets of audio that can be analyzed,
Yeah.
to get a sense of your emotional state, your environment, who you're with.
Hold on, are you saying that my phone might be eavesdropping on me even when I haven't activated the voice assistant or anything?
It's not outside the realm of possibility. It's a question that we should be asking. It raises a lot of concerns about privacy in our digital age. But, before you disappear down a rabbit hole of paranoia, maybe we should talk about some of the features that are, at least in theory, designed to protect us.
Okay.
Fingerprint sensors, facial recognition, all of those things that are supposed to make our phones more secure.
Right. So it's a trade-off then, isn't it? We're giving up some of our privacy in exchange for convenience. But are these security features actually doing their job? I mean, are they as secure as we think they are? So these security features, fingerprint scanners, face unlock, they seem, I don't know, like futuristic conveniences and all, but are they really protecting our data, or are they just giving us this false sense of security?
I think it's a bit of both.
Mm.
I mean, they definitely make it harder for someone else to access your phone, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
But that biometric data, I mean, your fingerprint, your facial structure, that's valuable stuff.
Yeah.
And in the wrong hands,
Yeah.
it can be used for a lot more than just unlocking your phone.
Okay, yeah, that's not a thought I love. So we're essentially like handing over the keys to our identity for, what, a little bit of convenience?
Yeah.
Like that's saying if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Right.
Scary.
It's a relevant comparison. And while we're busy, focused on all the stuff we can see and touch, the hardware, the software, there's this other component at play that often gets overlooked in these conversations.
Which is?
The battery.
The battery. Okay, now that one throws me for a loop. What does battery life have to do with, well, any of this?
Well, think about it. Your smartphone, it has a limited battery life.
Right.
So that means you're tethered to a power source. You constantly need a recharge.
Mm.
And that, in turn, means that you're almost always connected to the grid, feeding the data stream.
So it's like this digital leash keeping us plugged in, feeding the beast, so to speak.
You could see it that way. And these power management systems, they often prioritize certain tasks, even when your battery's running low. Have you ever noticed how your phone seems to hold on to a signal, even when it's like gasping for those last percentage points of power?
I always thought that was just my phone being glitchy.
Maybe not. It could be a design feature.
Mm.
Because maintaining that connection, even with low power, it ensures that data can still be transmitted.
Wow. Okay, I have to say, this entire conversation has really got me thinking differently about my phone. I mean, some of this is seriously unnerving, but at the same time, it's empowering to understand, what's really going on under the hood.
Right. Knowledge is power. And just understanding the capabilities of this technology, the good, and as you said, the potentially concerning, is the first step to making informed decisions about your relationship with your tech.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up here, I mean, we've explored the hardware, the software, all those hidden sensors, even the not so humble battery life. What are the big takeaways for our listeners? Should we all be, I don't know, like trading in our smartphones for a cabin in the woods, ditching technology altogether?
I don't think it's about, swearing off technology entirely. It's really more about awareness. Your smartphone,
Yeah.
it's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or, well, not so good. But it's up to you, the user, to understand how it works, the potential benefits, and yes, the potential risks. And then you can be more deliberate, I think, about your digital footprint.
Be mindful, be informed, and maybe think twice before you just blindly click accept on those terms and conditions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, a huge thank you to you for joining us today for this deep dive. Hopefully everyone out there listening is leaving a little less clueless and a little more empowered. Until next time, stay curious.